Welcome, my friends. Therapy and spiritual awakening. Let's talk about that. Therapy is helpful. Therapy is not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of failure. Therapy is help. In the context of spiritual awakening, when people are discovering things about themselves, they can discover things that are difficult to handle. And a well-trained, qualified therapist can be a critical piece in your spiritual support. My name is Jim Tolles, and I am not a therapist, I'm a spiritual teacher. Everything on my blog, spiritualawakeningprocess.com, and on these videos is my experience and my opinion. If you're looking for therapeutic support, I encourage you to look in your local community. And I do encourage you towards in-person support because some things cannot be translated through video or through a phone call. If you find general support from all these videos and blog posts that I do, feel free to sign up to my newsletter to hear more about my online classes, which I invite you to join. It's a great way to get to know me further and to go further in your path and potentially join some of my online communities or become a one-on-one student. You can sign up for the newsletter in the links down in the description. I've had a lot of people come my way looking for support. And unfortunately, a lot of what people were actually looking for was therapeutic support. I talk a lot about healing, but the way people are often interpreting this is as some sort of therapy, and I am often redirecting people to therapists. The types of healing I talk about are much more general because you can be wounded by success. And that just means that you're caught in this mental loop that thinks it constantly needs to succeed. To the external world, this is not a thing to go see a therapist about, and I'm not sure how many therapists would know what to do with that person who says, I'm caught in this loop of success. But when you understand illusions, as I do, you realize that any of our beliefs and attachments create wounds, and we have to let them go, and then we have to make changes. This is the best way to understand what I've been talking about for the last 13 years when I talk about the necessity of healing. And this is often very surprising to people who thought they were otherwise okay. It was surprising to me because I wasn't coming from a traumatized background. Scarcity fears, that's another thing that can cause us pain because of how we orient towards money. Some people put themselves in places of financial scarcity. Other people hold on to money. Other people overly seek money. Scarcity fears wound us, letting them go. We see that money is a tool. That's what I've been talking about. But unfortunately, there are people with very complicated, significant traumas, hoping that spirituality will fix things for them, that it's a bypass for things. And for others who have found a lot of very poor support in the therapeutic world, I'm sorry. But spirituality doesn't fix those things. A lot of the fixes that people think they're seeing is not spirituality fixing. It's often that we're just getting out of the way of the emotional releases, the physical relaxations, and the mental resistance that impede healing. So to that point, there have been more than a few people who have found significant healing on the spiritual path, but this really should not be done alone and should not be the point of the spiritual work. Having a spiritual teacher and a therapist is a useful balance, where the teacher reminds you that you are just surrendering to what is, and if you have trauma, whatever it is, sexual abuse, narcissistic trauma, various forms of physical traumas, war trauma. These are horrible things and you need the correct support. Where this work also helps is that so often the ego gets in the way and says, I don't want that sort of help, or I don't need it, or I can do it all on my own. doing things on your own is the slowest way to move through, if it moves through at all. And a lot of people build up a lot of ego around just doing things, and just doing things doesn't mean you're healing and resolving things. And I know right now it's a very confusing space to look for help in the healing world because there's so many new modalities, different things that are being offered. How do you choose? I don't have great advice for that. I do encourage you to research and to find out for yourself. And some of it is trial and error. But taking it back to what I do as a spiritual teacher, I just help people surrender to what is, that you are here now. And whatever is here now is what is here now. And if that's different levels of abuse and trauma and other major unresolved issues, if that's having to deal with addictions, there are therapists and healing modalities that can help you. And through surrender, you accept that help. Surrender does not reject help because something is not spiritual. I've heard that before too. Oh, this therapist is not spiritual enough. They don't need to be spiritual to understand sexual abuse. They don't need to be spiritual to understand narcissistic abuse. They don't need to be spiritual to understand addiction. They already have plenty of tools to help you. And to say that something isn't spiritual is a misunderstanding of this path of surrender, which again is just accepting what is. In short, therapy is often a critical piece and a necessary first step for a lot of people on this path. That with awakening, opening someone up to see the truth of themselves, they often see the truth of the depth of the traumas and abuse they have. Surrender is accepting all this and then making that space to go get the appropriate help so that you can resolve these things and you can be at peace in your body. And as you do that, a whole other world opens up where you can find people like me that can show you how to go further in letting go of other attachments that society doesn't find to be a problem and that the society doesn't really even know how to help you with, like being attached to being successful, being attached to being attractive. That's where people like me step in. And we can help you go further in realizing that you are and you are free.